Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. Here, this is the spot where the conversation is pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Welcome home, Brains. There's only one requirement to hang out on the edge, is that you open your big brain and close your small mind. Did you bring your thinking caps? It's time to put them on, because the conversation starts now. April Mahoney Brains, how y'all doing? You're at your favorite spot, the best podcast on the planet, in the universe. The place where the conversation is pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Today, we are talking to Leslie Andrews. We're going to talk about a women's issue. But then I'm going to ask her some things about men too, because men go through the pause. Oh, yes. So we're going to talk about hormone health. We're going to talk about diet, nutrition, but also mindset mastery on how to just get our heads around everything that we do, because we are the be all end all for everybody. And a lot of times we neglect ourselves. And that's not a good thing to do, because when your cup is runneth over, where does that spillage go? So let's welcome her to the show. How are you today, Leslie?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Well, you look really good and healthy. You're taking good care of yourself. But I have strange working hours, so I'm really trying to get that circadian rhythm back.
Super important.
I am postmenopausal, so I'm still adjusting to it. It's weird, people go through the perimenopause, but they don't talk about the postmenopause. They just think it's just over, and it's not.
It's not over.
No, it's not. It's never over if you got a uterus. Or one that's been extracted. How about that? So we want to
you still go through it then.
That. We want to talk about women's hormonal health to the best of your ability, because we want to share with them options and choices. Like you said, you're not into dieting. You're into small, bite-sized, sustainable, manageable pieces. So that's really good. Is there anything else that you want me to focus on?
I think you've got it, April. Just really approaching health from a natural standpoint and understanding it's not just about diet and nutrition. There's a whole lot of other components that go into our life that we need to be aware of. Women tend to lose themselves in taking care of everybody and everything. So
them badass kids and that crazy lazy husband.
all that in a bag of chips.
Walking the dog. I get it. Okay, so
We got to lead by example, right?
Absolutely, because a lot of times people talk the talk, but they do not walk the walk. Tell us a little bit about your story, your journey, and your truth, because you were formerly a massage therapist, huh?
I've had a massage therapy practice for 19 years.
Wow.
So, and I've talked to a lot of clients through those years that, they would come in to see me and we would work on a specific muscle ache, but it didn't go away when they left. And I was seeing a growing need in the conversations that I was having with my clients, which were predominantly women, that they wanted to get, they were looking for some extra help, and trying to figure out all these other components of what was going on in their life. So I was starting to hear a common thread, and it was the story that I was all too familiar with, because I was a single mom for many years, had gone through a divorce, and became a single mom again. And it was a lot. So during that time, I started to think, God, is it me, or is it the divorce? Is it the bad relationship? I wasn't picking up on the fact that it was any part of what was going on with, say, perimenopause. So once I started to separate from that a little bit and really take a look at different things that I was doing, April, I got to tell you, I had so many different diets that I tried. I tried different diet pills. I worked out with trainers like crazy. I've done paleo and keto and all of the different things. And I started reading and journaling and really trying to figure out who I was again.
Right.
Because, as your kids start to grow up, it's like, who am I? We so get lost in the shuffle of life as moms and wives and business women.
No, I didn't, honey. I disconnected real easy. I said, okay, you 18. I'm going to set you up. You good. You happy. You healthy. You're not on drugs. Be gone.
Not everybody can do that. Good for you. Good for you. I was still trying to do it all. So anyway, I finally enlisted the help of somebody to help me kind of guide me through this process. And once I could see the shifts that needed to be made and the small incremental changes that we can make and what a big difference they have overall, it made all the difference for me. So I am like you. We talked about this kind of post menopause now,
Uh-huh.
but I really have a passion for working with women and helping them, regardless of what phase they're in. Right? There's a three phases. You've got perimenopause, menopause, post menopause. Regardless of what phase you're in, you still need that help. You still need that guidance because the hormones are always in flux.
They
And if
are.
one of them's off, they're all off. So you really need to just be aware and be kind and loving to yourself. And so part of the journey isn't just diet and exercise like a lot of people think. You work with a coach. I got to go on a diet. I don't believe in diets.
I don't call
Uh,
it a diet. I call it a live it.
it's a lifestyle.
It's a
It's
live.
a
You
lifestyle.
have to be able to live this. It has to be a lifestyle change. When you were an infant, you had
Yes.
straight liquids, then you were introduced to solids, then you were introduced to junk food, then you introduced to nutrition, and now that cycle has to regress. There's a lot of things in our diet, and I just, again, I was telling you earlier, I do a lot of heavy lifting, hand to mouth. Um, but it's fun stuff, and
Yeah.
my culture, African American, we want butter, we want cheese, we want sauces, we want cornbread, we want great, all the fixings. But what I've really incorporated is really looking at recipes
Hmm.
and how I can substitute certain things. Instead of putting pork in it, I can put a broth, or certain herbs. I've got an herb garden. There's so many different things that we can do. And
Right.
let's talk about these phases. Explain to my guests who may be in these stages and don't know, what is perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause.
So to break it down real simple, perimenopause is everything that leads up to that moment when you have 12 consecutive months without a period. That section is menopause. 12 consecutive months without a period is menopause. Anything after that is postmenopause. If you're before that, you're in perimenopause. So as long as you're still having some kind of cycle and you're still having that monthly cycle, you are in perimenopause. You haven't gotten quite to menopause yet. And I've known many women who have gotten 8 months without a period, and all of a sudden it starts again, and they're right back to month 1.
Girl, I got a girlfriend that's 46 and pregnant.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah,
is
I told my
she is
husband, "You can't come
beside
near me."
herself. Yeah, she's beside herself. I told her,
Yeah,
well, there's things you can do to prevent that, and you can be creative. You
right,
don't have to necessarily get pregnant. But let me
right.
just throw in a little disclaimer. Brains, I want you to know that if you are currently under a doctor's care, we want you to continue with the same regimen and treatment. These are suggestions, these are options. These are tried and true things that we have done that have worked, that you can look into, but please continue your current treatment of care with your physician. So now the perimenopausal, you know, let's talk to the woman that maybe has had fibroids or endometriosis, or has had to have a hysterectomy. That throws everything off. And so
Yes.
your physician may introduce or suggest hormone replacement therapy. That's something that you need to consider. But in the meantime, in between time, there are certain things that you can look at, you can journal, you can extract from your diet that can make it a little easier until you figure out what your long term course of treatment or action could be. Could you give us some of those suggestions, Leslie?
Absolutely. And definitely, I appreciate the disclaimer because I make one thing very clear. I'm not a doc. I'm not a dietitian. I don't do the diet thing, but there are some definite things that I walk my clients through. A big section of what we do is learning to read food labels and getting educated on what's in the food you're putting in your body because our food is loaded. Everything you pick up has
Oh,
got sugar in it. And
it
there's like
is
over 100 different
crazy.
names for sugar.
It's crazy. And
Yeah,
so I'm doing that a lot more now, and it's just disgusting.
it
But
is.
something is,
It just kind of pisses me off, but when you see what's in there, and if you can't pronounce it, put it back. It's a chemical. It's a chemical that's gonna throw everything off in your body. So really what we try to do, and again, not diet, but just getting yourself back to the roots of what God intended us to eat, right?
like an
Um,
example. Let me just throw in a quick example. We love
Sure.
gravy. Okay. So we were getting these packets of gravy. Just said, you know what? Let me turn this over for the first time in all these years. Let me turn this over and look at it. I didn't understand a cotton picking thing that was in there. I didn't
No.
see any, even dried extract of beef or vegetable. It was all of this stuff. So I said, you know what? You got all these great drippings, reduce the grease, put some flour, put some water, put some cream, and I'll make the best cotton picking gravy in the world. I'd go right past it in the store right now. Those are the simple things. I mean, just think
Yeah.
of processed, the canned fruit, how much sugar
Oh,
is in that,
yeah.
or noodles, how much salt is in that, and the caffeine. Oh my God, that was my trigger. So I started getting
Caffeine was mine
older.
as well.
Yeah, it would make my breast so tender. I thought I had breast cancer. I was
Mhm.
like, what in the world is this? And it was also the lemonade. When you go to a restaurant and you get the lemonade dispenser, that I don't know what that stuff is, that syrup or
You
whatever,
probably don't want to know.
but it would take me from a flicker to a flame. And is that hose even clean? I was like, nope. So now what I do is I get some water, some lemon, and
Make your own.
try to do it. Yeah, and try to do it without. So I'm
Even
sorry,
if we get
I didn't
the,
mean to cut you off, but I
oh,
definitely
you're fine.
want to interject in that point because the food is wow, that's doing it. You are what you
Yeah.
eat.
Truly, we'll even get, if we're going to get a rotisserie chicken or something, we'll take you can make your own broth pretty easy by just, taking the carcass and adding some whatever vegetables you've got in the fridge, your celery, your onions and carrots, whatever you've got, and put it in a pot and let it simmer on the stove. And you've got yourself some broth that you can have to make as a base for your soups, for your rice, for whatever you're cooking up, quinoa grains, whatever you want to use broth for. But it definitely knocks down the sodium content. And again, you know what you've got. You know what you put in it. So the suggestions you made are fantastic. I always tell people too, things that are packaged to look like healthy, you got to watch the marketing. You got to watch the way that they package things
All right, let's
because
go there real quick. I
so
say that it is a sales pitch. Gluten free, fat free, sugar free. You know, what is the preservative that's keeping the sustainability? And also the topicals that we put on our skin, the lotions, the shampoos, the hair color, all these
all
things
of it.
too go right into the skin, which is the biggest organ of the body that will jack you up.
Hmm. Absolutely. So you got to look at your yogurts. You got to look at your oh geez, the waters, some of the vitamin waters that you get. Start looking at the sugar content on things
Mm.
and start doing the math. And because on average we should have no more than 6 teaspoons of sugar in a day. I think it's 9 for men. I'd have to go back and look at that, but I think it's 6 and 9. And if you start doing the math on the grams of sugar and converting them, you're getting way more than that in probably a vitamin water.
And we're not even talking about, okay, you get one of these fancy gourmet coffees. They
No, because that's
they
off
put
the
4 or 5
charts.
pumps, and then you have the nerve to put a couple spoons of sugar in there. And then what you're giving your kids. This is
Yeah.
affecting their brain. So, forget the even what we're going through. Can you imagine what they're ingesting? And I did a sugar detox, Leslie. Oh my God. I thought I
First three
was
days
like,
are the worst.
I thought I was getting off of alcohol or cigarettes.
Uh-huh.
It was really, really intense. I had the headache from hell
Hmm.
and I was cranky and irritable. Sugar is dangerous. In China, they call it the sweet poison.
It is. I mean, and you've got cortisol is your stress hormone, right? Because a lot of us, we aren't in that in a point where we were trying in our survival mode to run from a tiger or something like that, your cortisol would naturally jump up in order as that mechanism to help you cope with that stress and give you the adrenaline that you needed to run.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, now we're in a constant state of stress. So we're in that constant fight or flight. Cortisol remains up, your insulin level goes up, and now you've got all the sugar that we're adding into our diets, and it's all contributing to that menopausal middle that you
Mm.
start noticing everything gathering around the middle there, and you can't shake it. Sugar is a huge culprit, and as well as stress and a few other things. But sugar is a big deal, along with caffeine. And
Exactly.
so when I'm working with my clients, again, we try to gradually make these shifts so that you're not going through those withdrawals so severely, and
Right.
you just become very aware
And you have
of
to
what
be
you're doing.
gentle with your palate. You're not
Yes.
going to like everything, but just think
Mm-mm.
about it. You have to be able to appreciate bitter, sweet, sour. All of these things are gifts that you are able
Yes.
to differentiate. So, you know what? Just a little lemon and water. You have that for 3 or 4 days. You won't miss the sugar and the inflammation.
Well, the inflammation is huge. I was early on in my massage career, and all of a sudden I started noticing, like working with my hands and my elbows, my arms. I'd come home at the end of the day. I'm like, God, I'm really sore. But I was big on processed foods at the time, like snack crackers and things like that, M&Ms, whatever.
Hmm.
Um, but I too much sugar, too much of the processed stuff, and the inflammation in my body was off the charts. So once I started backing some of that out, and brains, I would say, it, listen to your bodies and look for those cues and understand that what your body's saying to you. Which, April, you were spot on when you realized the connection with the lemonade that you were having
I
and the
couldn't
impact that it was
believe it.
having on your body.
I could not believe it. But see, what I
Yeah.
started doing is I started when I was going through the menopause, and we're gonna get to that next, brains. But when I was going through the menopause, it was odd. I was like, why do I have a trigger? And when you have a hot flash, there's no pumping the brakes on that. It's got to go from the top of your head all the way through your feet, and then you get these intense sweats. Everybody's a little bit different. But I tell you,
Everybody.
it is, and it's so embarrassing. My brother is had prostate uh, trouble, and he's on hormone replacement. And we were at a restaurant, and he had his hat, and he was fanning, and he was sweating. I saw him do 2 or 3 times. I said, "Are you okay, brother?" And he goes, "No." He says, "I'm taking hormone replacement therapy." He says, "And I'm having hot flashes." It was the first time I had ever seen a man go through that. It's horrible. So I started charting my food, and I said, okay,
Hmm.
I'm taking this. How long is it before I have a reaction, and what is the reaction? And it was very simple. And then I said, oh, okay, well, this doesn't work. Well, if there's caffeine in this, this beverage, then there's caffeine in this beverage. Well, then, let's stop doing it. And I did it for about a week or 2 weeks, and it really subsided. It really, really did. Exercise helped.
Hmm.
But what are some of the other suggestions that you have for a person that's just going through the change?
Be kind to yourself. Be gracious and kind to yourself, and give yourself that grace. I would say one of the biggest things is make sure that you're making self-care a priority, as well as what we've already talked about, paying attention to what you're putting in your body, from from a topical, lotions and skincare, the cleaners in your home. Like, try to slowly start replacing things with some green cleaners. But truly, if you're getting down to just yourself and your symptoms, listen to your body, pay attention to what your body's telling you, journal your food like you were talking about, and make sure that you're kind of figuring out where those triggers are coming from. And then try slowly making some shifts, whether it's caffeine or sugar. What I definitely would not do, is where we tend to shoot ourselves in the foot, is we take on everything at once.
Right, right.
Processed food's no good, sugar's no good, caffeine's no good. I got to work out, and we put too much on our plate at one time, and then you don't, then you fail, right? Then you're
You
beating
fail,
yourself up
but you
because you
can
didn't.
you can't really identify what it is your trigger when you just do everything at once,
Yeah,
or
you don't know.
you can extract everything and then gradually add things back in. But
But
who
we
wants
tend
to
to
go
beat
through
ourselves up, we tend to beat ourselves up, and then you just want to quit, and then you don't want to do anything, and you just assume that all these god awful symptoms that we deal with are just a part of the process. And I just have to deal with it. It's just part of what we go through, and this is what it is. And that's a myth. That is not true. There are definitely things that you can do, but get somebody to work with that can take you down that path slowly but surely, and helping you keep yourself accountable to your goals and what you're trying to accomplish. And they're not my goals when I work with people, it's their goal. So
Absolutely.
if there's a line drawn in the sand that they definitely don't want to give up caffeine, that's fine. We don't have to give up caffeine right now. What can we work with? Let's start there. Let's
Yeah,
Go through the path of
come
least
with a
resistance.
can-do, come with a can-do attitude.
Right.
What are you willing to, what is the risk versus the reward? I'm
Exactly.
telling you, not to have a hot flash or to at least anticipate it. You somewhere looking real cute and they say, well, would you like some tea? Tea has caffeine in it too. And
Right.
there you are,
Mhm.
a melting mess. So let's talk about some replacements, some things that people can do, that can help them outside of, because like you said, you're not into the diets and you're not
Mhm.
into mainstream, uh, you know, medicines. But from your perspective and from the work that you've done, what are some things that we can incorporate in our diets, in our daily lives, outside of being kind to ourselves and working out, that could maybe help us get these hormones under control?
Stress is a big thing. So, and I know we've talked about this a bit, but if taking that pause, taking that beat in your day to just take a deep breath and step away from something that might be triggering you, maybe another person, maybe a situation, something like that. Stress is a big deal. So I don't want to discount self-care, because the more we take time to take a bath, to take 5 minutes to meditate, and some people say, I can't meditate. I can't focus on it. Again, don't beat yourself up. Give yourself a minute and build on that minute and see how far you can go with it. But it gives us a minute to get off the treadmill and just to of life, right? And just bring our brains back down
That's right.
and give you that moment to center and proceed. But taking just a step away to take some deep breathing is truly beneficial at just kind of bringing that stress hormone down. Cortisol is probably the biggest, um, what am I trying to say? Culprit in our hormones, because your cortisol and your insulin goes up, your estrogen goes down. You want that estrogen up. So you definitely want to make sure you're doing that. Just try to stay away from your processed foods as much as possible and read those labels and educate yourself. Sugars are in everything and are not good for you. So there's a whole host of, I do talks on just sugar itself. So there's a lot to be said for sugar and making sure that you're aware of where it's coming from and trying to make those adjustments at home as much as you can. Cook your own meals, um, and make those replacements that you had spoken about earlier, because those are some wonderful things to do. Just being aware of what you're putting in your body
And
and
cooking
handling
is a
your diet.
meditation. You
It
know,
can be. A lot of
it is.
people love it.
It is self-awareness, but also your sexual appetite.
Hmm.
Well,
And when that estrogen dips, so does your libido. So,
it that or vaginal drying,
mhm.
sensitivity to your breasts. All these things can, you know, and when you have a hot flash, you don't want your spouse to come anywhere near you. You don't want the covers
No,
to touch you. You want the fan on. You want the window open. But those are things that be conscious of, and be kind to your partner in those situations, because they're going through something too. They don't understand what's happening to you inside your body. So, have a loving relationship. Allow them into that space. Explain to them what's going on, how you're feeling, how they might be able to help you. Maybe you can incorporate lifestyle changes for the both of you, because, again, intimacy is something that is really impacted in hormone health. I see that, you know,
hmm
mentally, physically, spiritually, the whole thing. And then that's the last thing you want, is to, have that impact a relationship that you've had for a long time. So now let's talk about some fun stuff, Leslie. Um, if you were an appliance in the kitchen, what appliance would you be?
Oh boy. Well, that's a fun question. Let's see. Could be stove.
Because you're hot.
Could meet with the flashes. Sometimes it's at a simmer, sometimes it's boiling.
Exactly. I think I'd be the refrigerator,
Okay,
because I want to chill.
there you go.
How about that? If you had three magical wishes, what would they be?
Magical wishes.
Anything.
Oh, I think I just take off and go travel. go travel with my family. These are good questions, girl. You have me thinking. I want to write. I'd get that book out and I still want, my passion is just getting in front of as many women as I can and helping them to make some better advancement in their life. Because it's about what we're supposed to give back, I think, when we're here.
Exactly, exactly. Paying it forward. What would you tell a woman that is um, kind of in denial? She doesn't really know what's going on, because when it hit me, I was like, what? Why am I feeling so weird? I got the brain fog, not sleeping well at night, and you know, the period part hadn't kicked in yet, but I was having
Right.
severe cramping. Like, I could tell that there was something different. What would you tell a woman that might be entering the perimenopausal state, but unaware? What are some of the signs or symptoms that you would tell her to look for?
Differences, the periods become irregular. And you notice things just start to grind to a halt, right? When we start doing this process. But at the beginning, I was regular as clockwork. And all of a sudden it wasn't quite as prompt as it had been. Or there was a difference maybe in the flow or something like that. So you notice some differences in from what you typically experienced. So that's pretty much a normal part of it. Um, Definitely you might find yourself becoming more forgetful or irritable.
Uh, it's like
Irritability is a big one.
it's like, where are my glasses? They're on top of your head. Where's my phone?
Yeah.
Right there. Where's my keys?
Like, oh, I came in this room. Why did I
Or
come here?
how did I get here? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I get you. I get you.
Yeah.
So what
Brain
would
fog is a big one too.
exactly what would you tell a 25-year-old Leslie Andrews?
It's never too early to start paying attention to your health and your diet because things start to, and I told my daughter this, I'm like, that bag of Oreos you keep digging into, I'm like, it's going to catch up with you real quick, you
Wait,
know? Yeah. It just because it says it's healthy and gluten free doesn't mean it's good for you. But the more you kind of get your diet and your lifestyle organized now and learn to take care of yourself and make yourself a priority, the easier this whole process is going to be as you continue to age. And the more you take care of your body, the brighter your skin will be, less wrinkles.
mhm.
It really starts at a young age. What I love about working with my moms is that the changes they're making are having a huge impact on their family because it not always, but a lot of times it starts with mom. Mom does the cooking, mom takes care of the
Because
kids.
she's nice now. You can approach her and she won't have her claws and her fangs out. It's difficult. What are some of the fun activities that you do outside of working with your clients and dealing with the kids and walking the dog? But what are things that you do to decompress, to show yourself love and grace?
I get a massage, practice what I preach there.
I know, I know.
That's like
I love it.
time to disconnect. It's huge. But we love to camp and be outdoors and go hiking and get on the boat, maybe take the kayaks out. Spending time with friends and family though is a big, it's just a nice way to come down and show some love and be surrounded by people that care.
What type
And
of
I've got a grandchild on the way, so we're all about that right now.
You're lucky. I'm a grand muppy. We got a yeah. That's the closest I was getting. Um, I was gonna. Oh, what type of massage do you like? Now there are so many kind. I got a feather massage, and I paid big money for that. But the energy that was transferred was euphoric, and just
Mhm.
lightly glazing over the top of my skin with the feather. It was unbelievable. There's these deep, intense Thai massages, there's Swedish massages, there's stone massages. For a person that is new to massage,
Mhm.
how would you suggest that they enter into that? Because again, some people don't like to be touched, some people
Mhm.
may have been violated, some people are afraid of being naked in front of a stranger. That's not me, but I love it. But how do you introduce people to massage?
Um, when I had somebody come in that had never had a massage before, I was always very careful to talk about all the different things. I would have people come in that would lay on the table fully dressed until they got comfortable with it. I would have people that would just say, work my upper body only. But to answer your question, probably a Swedish relaxation massage just to experience some relaxation. And
Mhm.
from there, if you've got a troubled spot, maybe incorporate some therapeutic where they're actually getting in and doing some work to get some of those knots smoothed out for you. Another really awesome therapy that not a lot of people are aware of or do is something called craniosacral therapy.
That.
And yeah, and I've practiced that. That's you have a cerebral spinal fluid that runs from the cranium to the sacrum, and there's a definite rhythm to it. And we can palpate when that's rhythm's off, but you can lay on the table fully dressed, and the therapist will place their hands on various, maybe on your legs or on your one on your shoulder, one on your hip, and just kind of work with the body and tune into what the body needs. And then the body can do its own unwinding and adjust itself. We basically facilitate that process, but it puts you in this state of feeling like you're in a twilight. So you're not sleeping, but you're not completely in the room either.
Mhm.
So it's just a real, and then your body continues to work even after you're gone.
So you're in a
That
trance
can
like
be,
kind of state.
yeah, people with migraines, TMJ, that's really beneficial for them.
Wow. What do you think
Yeah,
about Reiki? You know, Reiki is a different type of energy massage. I don't know if you
yes, it
do
is.
that, but I tell you, the first time someone introduced me to that, I was like, oh, this is hokey pokey. What are you talking about? I'm going to lay on this table and you're going to run your hands across me and we're going to channel energy. I was exhausted.
Yeah,
It was an exchange of energy like that feather, like I had never felt before.
yes.
But you
I love
take
it.
on a lot of people's illness. How do you ground yourself? Because again, you're channeling energy, whether it's hands on, Reiki, all these different modalities, there's a transfer of energy there. What do you do to ground yourself?
It's just quieting my mind again and going and being very intentional and almost visualizing this bubble around me,
Mm,
this bubble of protection. And that's something that everybody can do. Visualize that bubble around you so that anything negative, or you're not, it's not that transference, you don't get that transference. Because when I haven't done that, I've been in session and all of a sudden I'm feeling really anxious. And I thought I was fine until you came in here. And I was like,
mm.
oh. So I'll ask my client, are you anxious today? And they're like, how did you know that? So
Energy.
it's a definite, there's definitely something to it. So I put that protective bubble around me, and I do advise even my clients now, be careful who you surround yourself with, because
Mm.
you've got energy vampires and you've got enough on your plate. You don't need to deal with energy vampires on top of everything else.
And in closing, you have three pillars, certain objectives that you work with and you incorporate in the work that you do with your clients. We're talking about clarity and having a clear path, and also health naturally. Can you give us a little bit more insight?
Absolutely. It's very important that we as women have anybody has an idea of exactly where they want to go. They need to have some clarity on what their goal is, why it's important to them. Because if you're not solid in why you want to get somewhere, if it doesn't mean, if it's not meaningful and you don't really want it, you're not going to be motivated to do the work to get it. So it's got to be a strong, compelling why for you. And once you get really clear about the goal that you want, then we're going to get really clear on that path of how to get you there. So we've got some clarity around your goals and we can start taking those steps step by step to get you down that path to ultimately what you want in the time frame that you're looking to get it. And the way that we do that is again to implement some of the natural health strategies that we've discussed. And they can be around whole foods and watching the processed foods and sugars. They can be a lot around lifestyle and making sure that you're surrounding yourself with the right people and that you're showing yourself some grace and giving yourself that downtime and that self care that you need to fill your cup. Because you can't take care of everybody if you're not taking care of yourself. It starts with us. So you really have to make yourself a priority. And that's probably the strongest thing I work with my clients on is helping to see that there is time to make themselves a priority.
It
And
is.
we've had some fantastic results of the last client I worked with, her husband lost 31 pounds. Her
Wow.
kids, the behavior started to change. You know, everybody was kind of doing their part. And I said, you don't have to do it all yourself. You know, they're young, but this is a learning ground for them. They're adults in training, you know? So that we lead by example.
Yeah, and you learn to delegate,
Yeah,
offset. You don't have to be everything to everybody. We set that expectation for ourselves. And I
we
think
do.
that's another thing is establishing boundaries, having clear expectations, sharing those expectations with others, communicating your needs. There's nothing wrong with that. Journaling, quieting that monkey mind. If it's, nothing but, again, yoga, I love it. It's a preparation for meditation. You're stretching your body, you're opening your mind, you're connecting with the breath. I tell people all the time, you already know this. The breath was the very first gift we got, and it'll be the very last gift when we leave. So everything in between is gravy. And we're not
Right.
talking about the one in the package, we're talking about the one we
No,
make.
not that one.
But thank you so much, Leslie. You are a true gift, and it's a lot of work. Everybody, again, is different. But if you take a practical approach, don't overthink it. Okay, your body's already on overload. Be kind to yourself, work with your physician, document your food, work with a trained professional like Leslie. Go and get a good massage, and I think that you'll find that life can be kind to you and you can get through the menopause.
That's right.
Thank you, Brains. I need you to go like, love, share, and subscribe. But before we do that, we want to find out how to get in contact with Leslie. Can you tell us how to get in contact with you, work with you, um, follow you on social media?
I have a scheduling link. I would love to offer your brains an opportunity for a consult if they're interested, just to get an idea of where they're at, give them a little mini plan to get them started and off on their path. And if it makes more sense and they want more information, fantastic. But I would love to do that for them. And if they would like to go to the website, it's turningpointwomenshealth.com.
TurningPointWomen'sHealth.com. I'm going to put all of her contact information in the show notes in the back. If this is not you, if this is someone that you know, or even a gentleman, like I said, my brother's going through it. Um, Contact, I don't know if this is Leslie's field of expertise, but I'm sure with her skill and her knowledge that she can direct anybody
Absolutely.
to additional resources. Again, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Bye, Brains.